A quick 5-second announcement. I reviewed Kanye West's new song on the second channel, if you want to check that out. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. I tell you, man, the Orlando Magic, they might not be good, but they have some interesting players to talk about. Mo Bamba, Jonathan Isaac, and now Markelle Fultz. The last time I did a video talking about how Fultz is doing, it was almost a year ago. So let's talk about this. And I just want to go right into the jump shot. It's immediately where I want to go to. So his mid-range percentages were actually pretty good. He was in the 40s. He shot 45% on long twos. He shot 41% on shots around 15 feet from the basket. And I'm not going to talk about the free throws too much, but it should be mentioned he did get to 70% on those as well. And the majority of his 2-point buckets were not assisted. So a lot of them are pull-ups and that type of thing. And, you know, it actually looks kind of good. It doesn't look great. You can definitely see the sort of awkwardness in his pull-up, mainly because it seems like he holds the ball for an extra second longer than you're taught to hold it on a jump shot, and there is still a little bit of a hitch up top, but he goes into it with confidence, and the percentages are good. So I guess we can just hope that Fultz maintains this. Now, of course, in a perfect world, he would be shooting a whole bunch of three-pointers, but given the very unique situation of everything that has happened with Markelle Fultz since he got drafted, I feel like it's kind of baby steps when it comes to the jump shot. So, to me, that's kind of step one. Can you at least look competent on mid-range jump shots? Do you go into them with confidence? And I think as of right now, the answer is yeah. I mean, he doesn't hesitate on them when bigs drop on the pick and roll or when guys don't step up on him. He does attempt them. Now, I do feel like teams are daring him to take these, no doubt about it. And I feel like once his reputation on those shots gets around a little bit more, then maybe teams won't just allow him to get as close as they do. I mean, you're still going to dare guys to take mid-range jumpers. It's the least efficient shot in the NBA. Yeah, we all know that. But teams are really giving him some space on these like 14-footers. And I would just like to see if they step up on him a little bit more and just dare him to go to something else. Because it seems like Fultz is getting pretty comfortable with them. I mean, in terms of his overall shot thing, I mean, you know, it's at least 1/4 of his attempts that come from mid-range. His floaters have been pretty good as well, 43% on those. So it seems like he's progressing pretty okay. I mean, he clearly knows what he's doing out there. He doesn't look overwhelmed. I mean, this is a number one pick for a reason. And given everything around him for when he was drafted and all that, I mean, clearly he's got a good head on his shoulders with the way he's been able to handle that, and not being in Philadelphia anymore helped him out. So that's good. In terms of the roster around him, yeah, the shooting isn't the best. He doesn't really have guys to create offense for him. But again, he's kind of making it work. Now the question is, can he transition from these mid-rangers to threes? Well, if I look at his threes a little bit, I think his form does look a little more awkward from out there. The hitch in the top of the shot, or the way it looks like he's like his lower body and his upper body are not all the way in line with each other when he's attempting a three-pointer. It doesn't look great. He didn't attempt that many. He wasn't good on them when he did. He shot 25% on under 2 threes a game. And I mean, for what it's worth, you know, based on some of the attempts that I've seen, he's not hesitating to shoot them. And it's not like he's just hiding and hoping he doesn't get the ball. Like, his arms are stretched out there. He's ready to shoot it. He's just not that good at them right now. And even then, even if he looks like he's willing to attempt him, when you're only attempting 2 a game and you're playing 28 minutes a game, clearly your go-to is not to attempt a bunch of threes. So it's just going to be a day-to-day thing with him, and there's a chance he just never gets it. There's a chance that Fultz is never an awesome three-point shooter, and we're just going to have to deal with that, I guess. For what it's worth, he is shooting 31% on corner threes. That might be a little more intriguing than the overall number. Of course, the three-pointer is not the only thing with Fultz. His finishing at the basket, pretty good, 65%. His handle's good. He can get by guys. Now, the fact that he's not a threatening shooter doesn't help him because they go under screens or they just sag off of him or whatever, so we'll have to see how he manages that. I mean, he's certainly athletic, but he's not like Westbrook, where you can do everything right to dare him to take a jump shot, and he still gets to the rim on you. So I don't know what it's going to have to be for Fultz there, but I feel like if Orlando had a little bit more spacing, then I could picture Fultz being a little more of a force going to the rim, more of a downhill type of player. He shot 2 free throws a game. I feel like he can attempt more. You know, like he seems pretty fearless going to the basket. His finishing's good. He can do it with either hand. His handle's there. He's not a small dude. I mean, he's 6'3", he's over 200 pounds. He's got a really long wingspan. I feel like he can get to a point of shooting a good amount of free throws a game. Maybe 5 or 6 a game or so, which could really help out his efficiency. And I feel like if Markelle is not going to be an awesome three-point shooter, he's just going to have to be really solid at all the other stuff. And again, the mid-range looks good. If he's shooting a good amount of free throws, then perhaps all that can be enough to make up for the three. I mean, it's never going to totally make up for it, but he could still certainly be good. I mean, if we look at what would be the ultimate comparison for Markelle at this point, I guess for modern NBA players, it could be like Eric Bledsoe, if he's more of an all-around dude without the three ball. But if he was going to be somebody who could be really above average on offense without the three, what about Tony Parker? I mean, you know, Tony came up in a different era, certainly, but Tony just basically never shot threes. But he was so shifty and creative and good in the pick and roll, and his floaters were great, and he was so good at finishing around the rim without having crazy verticality and all that, and his floaters were awesome. Like, maybe that's the type of guy that Markelle needs to strive to be. Now, Tony certainly benefited from the team he was on, and we'll have to see if Markelle can get those same luxuries. I mean, thinking about this Orlando team, it's still tough to know who they really view as their long-term guys. I mean, Isaac and Bamba would be the two, I guess, and then Vucevic is more of a placeholder for Bamba, and then I feel like everybody else is up in the air, including Fultz. Fournier's contract will be interesting, but you know, could a Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Bamba thing work? I mean, it depends on the spacing between those two, I guess. Bamba's three has looked good. I've talked about it enough when I've mentioned him. And Isaac, to me, Isaac is projected to be an above-average offensive dude, certainly, and very above average defensively. So, yeah, I mean, with Markelle, the thing to remember, obviously he's not going to become one of the best players in the league, and that's rough because he was the unanimous number one pick. Everybody was like, yeah, this is the best player. But he's not going to kill Orlando's salary situation. He's making $12 million next year, and his rookie extension, it's going to be interesting. I think a lot of it's going to be dictated on next season, so we'll have to see, but early prediction would be probably in line with next season, about $12 million a year or so. Maybe Markelle would get a 3-year, $36 to $40 million deal or something like that. I don't know. His contract is going to be interesting. I guess I should probably touch on his defense and his passing for a little bit. I mean, his playmaking was not the thing that made him the top pick in the draft. So his 5 assists a game this year, there's a chance that he's just kind of in line with that for his whole career. I mean, maybe he could take a big jump as a playmaker, but I feel like, well, actually, the way for him to take a jump as a playmaker would be the talent around him being better and more spacing, that type of thing. So, there's that. We'll have to see what Orlando does. And then defensively, I've mentioned this before. 6'3", 6'9" wingspan, 200-something pounds. He can be a good defender. And I think the fact that Steve Clifford is his coach would help, because Clifford certainly cares about defense. I mean, Orlando this year, 9th in defense. Last year they were they were 8th, so basically the same. He cares about that side of the floor, so maybe that can just put that in Markelle's brain to be a defensive player and all that. But then I guess that poses another question for Orlando, which is Steve Clifford the long-term coach for this team? I don't know. I mean, he's the type of coach who can get an instant return, but then it's like, are players going to like him? Can he develop guys? So yeah, Orlando, they continue to be interesting while also not being that interesting, I guess. Like, there's so many things you can say about them, but you can also just take it back to they don't have a star player. But even so, Markelle Fultz. And once again, Kanye, second channel. Yeah.